Okay, good morning, everybody. Apparently, there we go. Start just a couple minutes late, but we've had some fun. Updated to the latest Windows 10 update yesterday, which is cool. Everything ran good, no problems there. But I didn't actually test the streaming stuff till about 10 minutes ago, and it remapped all of my audio inputs. So I had to go through and fix all the audio inputs. Hopefully everything is working properly, audio-wise. Hopefully the volume's like it normally is. Hopefully the music volume's where it normally is. And there's no issues with the audio volume. Streaming-wise, hopefully everything is working well as well. I've got to get this out to Twitter right now, so give me a second. So good morning and good day to everybody who is hanging out. Hopefully we'll get into actually something productive here in a second. Twitter right now. Whoops. Second. I can also hear myself. That was awesome. Let's mute desktop audio. There we go. And get the tweeter out. There we go. Okay. Okay. I think we are good. I think we're good. Glitch. Can you try to make a tutorial for like making save data? I already have tutorials on making save data. I've got a couple of them actually out there. Let's check the YouTube and see what I have. So what you're looking for is the save game object. And it looks like I have a couple different ones that use the word save game in it. So the save game object itself, this is what you'd use to save. So you have the what is and the how is. How do I use the save game object? In addition to that, we have right here on a Game Jam tips and tricks, a video dedicated just to a simple saving and loading system. So help us saving a player score and stuff like that. So that right there is an actual walkthrough, full 20-minute tutorial on making a loading and saving system. Other than that, you have some things like saving variables between maps. This is something that uses like game instances. What else do we have? I'm sure some of these daily streams where we try to help people out, we have some stuff in there. That's why they pop up now. Here's a simple loading system. But yeah, so what you're going to want to look for glitch is you're going to want to read the save game object stuffs. And you're going to want to check out the simple save and load system. Those are two of them designed for saving and loading and showing you how to make saving of data. If you still have troubles after that, feel free to let me know the exact issue you're having to see if we can try to figure that out. Other than that, hello to everybody who's hanging out. It's been a busy day, so I'm kind of a little bit behind on everything at this point in time. I meant to close that and ended up opening because it's a dumb thing. Okay, so I've got some comments I need to read, but I will go ahead and do those off stream because those are just questions. Other than that, let's load up our actual document we're supposed to be working on. If I can remember which one it is. No, that's not it. I've got so many of these things. I'm pretty sure this is our blueprint one. Yep. I had a feeling that was it. So let's see. This is always fun. This is the fun stuff you don't see me do normally because stuff breaks. Docs and MMO Slice. There we go. And I don't know where'd the other document go. I had it open, didn't I? Blueprint one. There we go. Okay, cool. So now we have those ones up for working on, and I have nothing else set up. So the last stuff we did on Wednesday was get some basic stuff working. Let me start up our servers so we can actually test. So here's our Mongo database. Here's our Epic dedicated server firing up. Epic dedicated server, Unreal dedicated server, and then here is our node server for our database connection. Cool. So we've got our servers running. We are going to find our project. Here's our project, and this is where we are at. So we set it up, our login's working properly. We can log in with our character. It loads the data from the database. We have all of our stats working properly. If you notice, we're now up to 220 coins. We managed to kill a bunch of stuff, which is kind of cool. But we set up our basic attack system. We set it up where I can hit E to turn on auto attack, on and off. I probably should have fixed this so it said on or off. And if we click on something, it actually selects it. We can't tell we have it selected. That's what I'm thinking we'll work on today. But if we click on something and hit auto attack, it actually auto attacks it on the server. This is the data coming from the server, and then once it dies, it actually dies. Our character gets the loot, 230 coins, and we get our characters, our enemies, to respawn properly. So we actually have that all working properly, and we happen to have no server work on Wednesday, which was nice. It was all inside of the editor, so that was fun. Glitch, can you try to make a branch matinee movement? Like make a player like a TGOCR story mode. What do you mean by branch matinee? I'm assuming you meant something you brought up a couple months ago where you could click on a location and it'll move to that location. You don't need to use matinee for that. You basically just set up hot spots inside of your map, and when you click on the hot spot, your character just moves to that location. That's the easiest way of doing that. I think that's what you're asking about. But I can add that to my list to maybe work on next week if you can give me an exact issue you're having. I mean, how far have you gotten with trying to implement it right now? And while he works on that stuff, we're going to work on this. So I'm thinking maybe making some sort of a basic UI for the player so that way the player can see their stats. We already have our character stats, our C, but we don't have any sort of like a heads-up display. So we don't see like the player's, traditionally a player name, the health and their mana values, and then a target where if you click on it, you can actually see the target's information. I'm thinking maybe we'll start off with that, but now that I think about it, we're not going to start off with that. I want to finish, I want to make sure the loot system works properly now that we actually have killing in place, and then we're going to move on to that. What I mean by that is our monsters right now, when something dies, we have this temporary section right here. We're testing handling out loot is what we're doing. And the last thing we recently changed was we had it where the aggro table is actually working properly. So the next thing, the only thing we're technically missing between making our regular giving out loot and our test giving out loot is the loot table, making sure our loot tables pass along properly. Because our test version basically just creates a fake loot table is what it does. So I think that's what I want to do, because I think it's working properly, we just haven't tested it. So we're going to go and do that. So let's just disconnect our temp stuff and pull it up here. And hello, James. Let's see, handle giving out loot. So we'll move these things over. We'll move these things over. And in theory, if this is working properly, let's see, target is the game mode. So we need to actually give this to the game mode like that. There we go. It should pass the information. And this loot table should be properly filled out. It should contain a ID, a chance to drop in a quantity. And if we look at this, that is technically what we were passing in before. An ID, a chance to drop in a quantity in an array format. So it should do that. And that loot table should be filled in when we spawn this monster. So if we go back to our helpers and our monster spawner, our loot table is passed in when we create the monster. So as long as our data table is correct, I think this may work properly. We just never had a chance to test it. So let's go to our data tables, and that's our monster data table. And this one is set right here, and it has a loot table of 1, which is, let's make sure that's our actual coin. Yeah, 1 is our coins. So it should drop a coin, 100% chance. Oh, we don't have a quantity, so let's put a quantity in there, and 10. So I think this will work. I think that'll work fine. We don't know for sure, we'll have to find out, but I think that'll work. Yeah, okay, cool. So we'll test that in a second. Let's see, glitch. Search story creation story mode, you'll see a gameplay of the game and tell me how to make a matinee movement with input. Okay, glitch. I know that you brought this up before, and I've kind of covered at a top level how to do it, but have you actually tried anything yet? Have you gotten into the engine, and have you tried creating this movement mode yourself? And if so, where are you stuck at? Okay, I think this is going to crash our server. We haven't figured this one out yet. Let's check this out. Okay, yeah. So our server is crashing on our second login. We haven't figured out why yet. So let me see if I can see any differences here. Join successful. No, I don't know why that's happening. That our server is crashing even though it shouldn't be. Crud. Okay. So we have not been able to figure out why our server is crashing. And our client here is still trying to connect to our server, which we can see right here. It's having a connection fit. Crap. I don't want to debug this on the stream. I want to debug this off the stream because I have a feeling it might take a while. So I don't want to do it on the stream. Okay. So let's check. We have 230 coins. Let's attack something. And let's see what happens if we kill it using our traditional loot system. Which I also realized I just didn't build out the server, so we might have an issue. Yeah, I think we're still using the older loot system. So let's stop this. Let's kill this. Because we're using a dedicated server, anytime we make a change to something that's inside our dedicated server, we need to make sure that we are properly updating our dedicated server so it has the new asset files. Yeah. Okay, so let's double check and make sure that we are actually using the proper loot system. So I need to build out my server. We'll build that out. I have no idea why the server is crashing though. It started once I got saving working properly, and I don't know what started causing it. So I'm gonna have to figure that one out. And hello Max, I'm glad you're following my tutorial. Hopefully it is helpful like you're saying. Which tutorial are you following? And hopefully everyone had a good last couple days since the last stream. That was super nifty how it kind of didn't scroll to the bottom. And build successful. Cool. So now we know we are going to be using the proper dedicated server. So I'll build it out. We'll move it over. And now we'll run and test this again. So now for sure we should be using our actual, factual, real, legitimate loot system if this works. So the monster's life is going down. Whoops. And the monster's dead. I actually forgot to check. We have 240 coins. Okay. So let's click on a monster and kill another monster. We'll let it get destroyed. And it's destroyed. And we have 240 coins. Okay. So our loot system's not working, unfortunately. I had hoped it would have been really simple to get it working, but it's not. We have an issue somewhere. Okay, good, Max. I'm glad. The intro to UE4 is a good one to start with, so that's good. Okay, so our character's not properly being saved, so we're going to have to figure that one out. Or I should say the loot's not properly being saved. So what is the difference between these two things? One of them is we are sending our aggro table, which we know worked properly, so our aggro table shouldn't be an issue. And the other one is we are sending no loot, and this one we're sending the loot table. So we need to check and see either the loot table's not being pressed properly, because if we go here and we check out our two versions of this code, this is our test one, this is our handle, they are pretty much the same. We have an array of actors to give loot to, you can see it here, and then we should have an array of loot right here. And this is 110. And our loot table itself from our monster, if we looked at it properly, should be the same thing. We have a loot table of 110. So we should be good. So now we need to debug and figure it out. So where is the smartest place to check out our debug? I'm thinking let's put a debug on the server side, and we will see if the server actually gets called with the proper information. That's our emit event right here, and this is our data that we're supposed to be giving out for our loot. So I'm going to go ahead and open up VS Code. This, as much as I don't want to open up the server itself, it's probably quicker if we open up the server and put the debug in here than try to debug it in the editor. Because unfortunately, in the editor, all this code we're running is server-side code, and it's a giant pain in the butt to get the output. So here's our fake loot code right now. I only have it set up for coins. All of our other stuff is not implemented simply because we don't have them. So we're going to really simply just debug out. And what we're going to do is we will input data is our loot right here. That's what we get. So we're going to really quickly, we'll debug it up here. Is what we're going to do. So we'll console log, and then we're going to do json.stringify, and then input data. And this should output to my server the data. And the cool thing is, we can save in here, and the server itself should auto restart. And it should have auto restarted. Okay, seriously, I managed to break 2 things now today? Seriously? That is the server. It is watching it. This is the right server, right? Right? Right. How the... Huh. Interesting, my server didn't restart. Okay, well, yet another thing I managed to break somehow. That's super duper. Let's go back into here. Let's run this again. Let's log in. Let's see if we can get some output from our node server when we kill something. We'll go and click. We'll attack. It'll count down. And it will die. And then we get information. Okay, so here we go. So here's our information. Okay. So our loot to give is nothing. Our new coins value is 240. So we are getting information from our server properly. And our ID and stuff. So our server's getting the proper information. The problem is, if we look at the character here, they have 240 coins. When we killed the monster, this should have been 250. The server should have calculated the information. The problem is the server's getting the wrong information. So now we at least know it's not on the server side. I haven't managed to screw up the server. We have managed to screw up the calculation inside of here somehow. So that's good. That's easy. That means that now we can test inside of here, and we know it's in here. Andre, yeah, this is node and socket.io. That is correct. Which we managed to keep breaking. So now at this point, I'm wondering if it's our loot table or the actor we're supposed to give the information to. I don't think it's the actor, because we are successfully getting a message to our server. I have a feeling our loot to give out is a problem. So for some reason, the loot to give out right here is coming back invalid. Which means this code right here, either the loot table we're sending is bad on this side. So what I want to do is, we're going to do a print string. And I want to grab this, and we're going to see if we can do some simple debugging on the client side when we destroy a monster. This should be super simple to test. So let's find out. The biggest problem I'm going to have now is our dedicated server keeps crashing between each session, which is of course horrible. Hello Brian. Good. Glad you like my real stuff. Hopefully it's helping. Okay, we'll give this to go out. When it dies, we should get another number when it dies. And we didn't. Of course we didn't. Because why would we get something properly? Because it's not updated on the server side, even though this monster is monster is updated here. Our remote should get the destroyed event. This should trigger. Unless it printed out nothing, which is a definite possibility. So let's try killing another monster. No, we didn't even get a... Oh, because I probably don't even have the right monster selected for my debug object. Let's see, I have wolf. So we need to find the original wolf and kill him. We have to trace the bloodline back, and we need to kill the original wolf in order to get our debug event to fire. There we go. Okay. Yep, there we go. So our loot table on this monster is empty. That is where our problem is coming from. So for whatever reason, our loot table is not being passed in properly on our spawner. So is our loot table set to... Well, first of all, is our loot table set to replicate? And it is not. So that might be an issue right there. It's not going to replicate from the client, from the server to the client. So let's retest this with replication turned on, shall we? Kill my server. Start it back up. Log in. And it's not going to let me because the server doesn't match the client anymore, because we managed to change enough data. So I'll just rebuild this out for a second. Let's see. Wonder if you've seen the hamster ball locomotion one guy made on Reddit. If you search hamster ball locomotion on Reddit, you'll see a GIF of it. I know that there is the rolling ball template built in. Have you looked into that? It works fairly well for stuff like that. You have basic impulses that are given to the ball based on the direction of the input. And then that simulates, you know, forces being pushed on the side, but still allows it to kind of roll the other direction at the same time too. Okay, let's try this up again. It'd be nice if I could get the server to start up on the screen. Log it in. Okay, there we go. So let's kill. We still have debug. Will this auto debug when any of them hit? I've never really played with debug too much. Let's find out. Let's see if it fires off with nothing selected. Okay, it will. Cool. Okay, so no, our loot table is fine. So our loot tables doesn't seem to be the issue. ID is 1. Chance to drop is 100. There's a value missing. Oh, that might be an issue. No, why is our quantity not being passed properly? You guys did see that, right? It didn't show quantity. Maybe it did show quantity, except for the fact... Okay, so let's... The nice thing is we can do that. We can get the first... Whoops. Get the first entry. We'll break the loot table, and we'll print out the quantity, and we will not worry about debugging. This is for testing purposes again. Kill this. Kill the server, because the server likes to crash. I will, after the stream today, I will go ahead and spend some time debugging what may be causing our server to crash. Because I literally don't know what's causing it, I don't want to spend an hour on the stream trying to debug it live, because that's not really going to get us anywhere when I can figure it out offhand. That also didn't print out anything. Okay, so do I not have a quantity? Is quantity not being passed properly from our loot table? That makes no sense, right? Okay, let's see. This is our monster base, which this might not be. Let's see. Let's debug this on our side before we restart. Kill one of our monsters. This is a struct, so it might be too big for me to properly see the output value here. That's what I was trying to check. Because it might just simply not be on... Oh, no, quantity. Oh, there we go. Quantity equals 0. Okay, so there's an issue. We are passing in a quantity, and our quantity is equal to 0. Okay, so we can kill this. We know that we are properly passing in a loot structure. The problem is our monster is getting 0 for his loot amount. So we need to figure that one out. So all of our code's actually good, it looks like. It's just our monster is not being spawned properly. Here's our data table. Here's our monster data table. That certainly says 10 for the quantity, right? Maybe it never saved properly? Save. Let's save all. Let's go to our monster spawner right here. It grabs the loot table and puts it into there. So maybe we'll pause it here. The problem is this is only on the server, so that's not going to work. So how are we going to get this information out properly? Well, Let's kill the server. Maybe this is just some weird struct issue where it didn't save properly. So let's save all. Let's rebuild all. This might have just been one of those weird issues where I'm testing in the middle of a change. Because technically at one point I had 0 for the quantity. And then it never actually saved it and rebuilt the server properly. You know, those fun things where you actually have 2 different settings. And it's not proper. But yeah, Brian, let's see. You said hamster ball locomotion on Reddit. Let's see if we can find something like that. Hamster ball locomotion UE4. Because I would guess it's really simple. It's really similar to the rolling ball template. And I'm not finding anything. Oh, here we go. Hamster ball, a locomotion method no one asked for. Here we go. Oh, we're talking about the Vive hamster ball locomotion? Because that, if we're talking about that, that looks really cool. He has, okay, so he has, in that thread, Brian, if you look at it, he has, a thread to the link to download it. And you can, oh, actually, let me see if that's an execute. I should probably have checked to see if it's executable before I assumed it was source code. Yeah, let me pull up this, open up the zip file. And see if this is source or if this is, no, shoot, yeah, it's just his actual, well, that's a bummer. Let's see, shoot, I don't really know for the most part. That is a very good question. That is kind of really cool. For anyone who's wondering, this is what he is bringing up right here. It's this little, basically you simulate like you're in a hamster ball and you use the Vive controllers to grip the ball and basically push yourself. That's kind of cool. I wish he said how he did it for the most part, but it shouldn't be too difficult. This, what you see around you, could just simply be an effect, like your, it's a sphere that's around you and you're simply rotating it in whatever direction you're going. More than likely that's what it is. And it shouldn't be too hard if you just like grip, like when, because all you're doing is you're taking the controller and when you pull the trigger, it's going to take its location. And then when you pull it and then release, for example, or you just track it every single time you move it, yeah, it shouldn't be too hard. I don't know how to do it. I don't have my VR stuff set up. But, you know, grab the current location in the world from where you pull the trigger, track it every tick as it's moving, and then you can simply apply, you know, figure it out. If it's going down, for example, your character is going to go forward. If it's going up, your character is going to go backwards. You're going to apply the opposite direction to yourself. And then this is just a material effect. You could do this on a material effect, or you could actually technically spin a ball around you if you want to as a sphere. I wouldn't be able to test this out, unfortunately, because I don't have my Vive set up. And no, Ryan, this is not Persona. This is actual factual work stuff. Persona doesn't come until later in the day. Okay, so let's try this again. Hopefully this was just a weird little glitch and it's working fine and we can move on. 240 coins, hit E, auto attack the monster. Monster should die. Hit C, 250 coins. Okay, so it was a glitch. This was a case of me probably not building out all of my stuff properly, 260 coins. So okay. So this is a good lesson. We've spent the last 20 minutes trying to figure out why the loot system wasn't working properly, when it was literally a simple case of me not saving and building out everything freshly to the server. So that old adage, have you tried turning it off and turned it on again? Or if you made sure it's plugged in, that applies to everything apparently. So all the stuff I just did for debugging was unnecessary. Everything works properly. Our loot system works properly. Yes, Ryan, I know the name of the animation system is Persona. You are trying to get me to go back. I got an hour and a half of work left helping people out, working on this project. Then more than likely I'll play Persona for a little bit before dinner. I already bought it. You cannot convince me I need to go out and buy it. I've already bought it. I'll play it as time permits. Someone's slightly addicted to the game, apparently. Okay, so I'm thinking we got our loot system done. We don't actually have any physical loot. I just have coins in. We basically stubbed stuff out. So I'm thinking let's get some sort of a UI working. We have two kind of UIs we need to work on. Our monsters themselves, they have no way of displaying their health. So for example, if the player is ignoring the player targeting them, just in general, most of the time when you're playing a game like this, monsters roam around and you can see a health bar. So you can see their life. Second of all, we have no way of knowing what we're targeting because we don't have any target indicator. And third of all, we have no attack indicator. So we have a whole bunch of stuff. James, I can't wait to see a UI like Persona 5 made in Unreal. I agree. I think it's an awesome UI, and I actually think Ryan's already working on that. He seems addicted to the UI. So let's do some basic monster health bar stuff. Yeah, let's do some basic monster health bar stuff. Let's see if we can do this. I think we can do this. And since this is all on the server side, this should be super simple. Let's do a health widget. We're going to make a really simple widget. So we'll leave it in the monsters because I feel like it. Monster widget blueprint, monster health bar, and we'll open this up. We are going to make this into a, let's see, I'm thinking a vertical box. I don't think this is going to be proper for what I want, but we'll wrap this stuff as we figure it out. But we're going to go with a text for the player's name. We're going to go with a progress bar for the player's health and a progress bar for the player's mana. I think that's what we're going to go with. And then we're going to actually wrap this vertical box in a border. And that way the let's see, border has one item in it, right? Yeah, that way I can have a background is what I wanted. There we go. So I can have a background color. So let's go. We can go with something like 0.8 black, and we can actually have kind of like a background. If we look at this, this is more in line of what we're going to end up with above the monster. This is the actual factual thing. So then we can always take the border box and we could fix this. So I'm thinking let's wrap this in a size box and let's do a fixed size. Which might be an issue. Well, we're gonna have an issue. I can guarantee right now we're gonna have an issue because of no, I don't know. Actually, let's find out. Okay, so width and height. So let's go with a width of 300 and a height of 150. No, 150 is way too much. 50. Nope. 80. Yeah, we'll do that because we need some more progress bar stuff here. We'll set that to fill. We'll set that to fill. What do we think? It's not horrible, right? Could be better. Could be worse. Yeah, we'll also put a little bit of stuff in here so you can see what we're talking about. And then our health bar, we're just going to make this green all the time for now. And then we'll make our mana bar blue. Yeah, that's not bad, right? We'll give ourselves a little padding. We'll give ourselves 5 padding around everything on there and there. Which obviously completely destroyed what I was going for. So let's see. Top and bottom. Top and bottom. So we want 5 on the top and 5 on the bottom. So like that. And we want 5 on the bottom. Then let's see our size box. Let's go with 100 then. There. That'll work, right? That doesn't look horribly horrible. Okay. monster name text block, monster name. There we go. We'll go with something like that. Okay, looks good to me. Let's make some custom events so we don't have to bind anything. This will be update monster name, and this will be custom event update monster health, and custom event update monster Henna. Now our name we know is going to take in a text box. We're going to make this one really simple. Whoops, that's a setter, not a getter. Set text. I think because we have a string internally, we're going to convert it in here. So we're going to go ahead and take in a string and just convert it inside of our display here. We're going to have to convert it at one point. Technically, this is something that should be a text all around for localization purposes, but this is our example project, and that is not something we're going to do. So there's our monster name code, monster health. This one's going to have to take in a... So there's a couple ways we can do this. Monster health, in terms of the UI, is simply a value between 0 and 1. Right now, all we're doing is displaying a value, a percentage, between 0 and 1, or 0 and 100%. Now, if I was to add on numbers later, for example, we would want to pass in things like the actual numbers for display purposes. For now, though, we are only displaying a percentage. So we have the choice of either passing in just a percentage, so I could say, health percent, and I could pass that in as a 0 to 1 or 0 to 100 value and do math. Or we could pass in the raw numbers and have it update the UI on here. There's lots of options we could do. We're going to make this super simple because we can update it later. I'm just going to pass in the health value is all I'm going to do. We're going to pass in a 0 to 1, and we're going to do all the math on the... not in the UI. We're going to do all the math somewhere else is what we're going to do. These are those things that you have to think about when you're making stuff. 1 would be 100%, 0.5 would be 50%. That is correct. Let's also name our progress bars so we actually can understand what these are. Health progress bar and mana progress bar. There we go. Oops, mana progress bar, set value. Yeah, it's kind of set value. For the love of Pete, set percent. Seriously, it's friggin' percent. It's value for other things and percent for this one. That is so stupid. And that's the funny part. So technically it's percent, but it's 0 to 1, not 0 to 100%. So this should technically be called value, not percent, because it's not 0 to 1%. But it's okay. We'll forgive Epic for that one. Yeah, when you're designing your UI and stuff like that, you basically have to make the decision if you're going to do where you're going to do your calculations and try to keep things standardized. We don't want, for example, update health to take in a 0 to 100 value, and update mana to take in a 0 to 1 value, and then update, I don't know, endurance to take in a actual value, and we do the math inside of here. We want to keep all of our calls and everything the same. But this is good. There's our functions. This should be super simple. As long as we initialize. So our health bars for the monsters should be good. We need a health bar somewhere in here. So let's see, widget class, health, monster health bar. Holy crap, that's huge. Yeah, this is where the brain always fails miserably at getting these things designed properly. So this is going to be fun. We want it in I want it in world space because I want it to be in the world. 500 by 500 isn't what I want, but But it's not cooperating, is it? That is. Let's see. Our character in game. I think I did our UI way too big, but how do we rescale the UI properly? I also want the pivot to be 0.1, so that way we're gonna lock it above the player like that. It's also not always facing the player, which is going to be an issue. There's a lot of stuff we're going to have problems with here. We'll have to figure out. And this is not something I play with all the time. So this is where I'm trying to remember how to do this properly. Oh well, let's see what happens. Let's see what this looks like in the game right now. Because our wolf should now have that as part of their character, yeah. Okay, so the 100's working fine. It's just for some reason it wasn't updating in the other one. That's stupid. Okay, so who thinks that's a bit big? It's probably a bit overkill, isn't it? Yeah. Yep, that's gonna be way overkill for what we want here. Okay, so let's resize some stuff in here. This is actually where we wanted to have a scale box. But I don't know if this is gonna work for what I want. Let's find out. Let's see what happens here. Yeah, whoa. Okay, we're not going to want to scale. Yep, we're not going to want to scale. That is horrible. We don't want to scale. Oh, poopy. No, this is one of those cases where we have to design it better. I designed this horribly. 300 by 100 was not a good idea. Is what it was. In terms of actually making stuff work properly inside the game, I had it. The actual over heights was wrong. So let's see. Where'd my stupid? There we go. Thank you. You know, we had end up with something like that. Yeah, this is one of those things where it is what's the right way of saying this? A lot of work, I guess. This is one of those things where you have to figure stuff out to fit your design choices and things like that. Like in this case, I'm actually not liking this border behind there. Though you kind of need the border in order to see everything just to be safe, huh? Shoot. Go back to 0.7 then. Yeah. Why does our border have? Why does our border? Wait. What has our? Vertical box is padding. Okay, that takes care of that one right there. That was an issue I had. This one should have 2 padding on it like that. This one should be 8. Yeah. Let's see if we can just start screwing with this a little bit. Yeah. You know what? We're gonna go with. We're gonna go with that for now. I'm spending way too much trying to okay, there's words that are failing miserably. Trying to make this more aesthetically pleasing when this is not something I should be concerned about right now. Okay, I also did that 0.2 instead of 2, so that was a fail on my part. There we go. Yeah, this is not something we should be worried about right now. We should be worried about getting something functional in the game to use. Let's see. Off-topic question. Don't worry about off-topics. Yeah, Nanopan, placeholders and move on. Don't worry about off-topics. This is stuff we work on if people don't have questions. Is it possible to have audio affect the RGB of a light? Trying to get a light to change color to music's waves as if the beat is driving the light. It is possible, however, right now, without any plugins, it's not possible. With the existing audio system, if you don't use any plugins, you can't actually get the waveform data out of a wave as far as I'm aware of. There are plugins that allow you to get it, and then if you get the data, it's just simply driving one piece of data with another. Your light has color values, RGB values, and you can set those values at runtime, and you would just have to get the data from your waveform as it's playing. I can't remember who did the plugin, but there is a plugin out there to get that data. In the future, with the new audio system, which will probably be 4.16, 4.17, a lot more exposed, I don't know if he's exposing it, but his plan was to expose the data natively in the engine. So you'll be able to do it for sure by then. For now, though, basically look for like a waveform plugin or a audio visualization plugin, I think is what he calls it. Oh, crap. Let's Google, because why not? I also just realized where my other stuff went to. I ended up opening this one up twice. So that would explain where stuff disappeared to. That one, there we go. Let's see, audio visualization UE4. And I know the person who did it, but I'm trying to remember who did it. Oops. I don't want to ask for... Oh, you don't have a back. That is so annoying. Yeah, okay. So what it... Yeah, that's right. That's what it is. I remember now. Inside the editor, under plugins, there is... sound? There we go. There is a sound visualization plugin inside of Unreal Engine. That's what it was. But it's editor only last time I checked. That was where the problem comes in. It can't actually be packaged. So someone worked on creating a version of it that was packageable is what it is. Yeah. Let's see. Oh, man. Well, anyways, I can't find it. I wish I could find it. But I do know someone has worked on it. That's what you're looking for, though. It's a sound visualization plugin. It is built in the engine now, but it doesn't package as far as I know. That, I think, is where the problem comes in. And, of course, while I'm at it, I'm just going to free auto visualization UE4 plugin package. Well, it's in there somewhere. XC, there we go. Someone's telling me XC is the one who made something like that. And I thought it might have been him, but I couldn't remember because I may have been confusing him with the... There we go. XC sound visualization plugin. Sound visualization plugin. I don't know when the last time this has been updated, but let's see. Can I go to... Okay, so clicking on the thread doesn't open up the first page. That's awesome. Okay, so the last time it looks like it was updated is 4.12. So, but that's what you're looking for. Sound visualization plugin. It looks like XE built it. If not, you can do this inside of your editor itself for sure, because there is a visualization plugin in the editor. It just doesn't work in the packaged part of the program in here. So there's a couple options to start with. Let's see. Yeah. Okay, BJ, how to make your player push objects. Well, what do you mean by your player pushing objects? If things are set up physically, then you should be able to do it out of the box. If you want to just simply move with physics. If you want to move it without physics, then it's completely different. Let's pull up this one. This should work out of the box. That's why I'm pulling it up. I believe. I can't remember. I haven't played with physics in a while. Could make this full screen. Play. Oops, so we can shoot that. Yeah. So here's the first person template, and it can naturally push objects. Just like that. And that's because our player itself has the capsule component on it, which has collision set up. So this one will work. And then our boxes themselves have simulate physics turned on, which allow them to react appropriately. So in this case, with physics. If you want specific objects to react with physics, then you just only have those simulated. So in this case, I could turn off simulate on this one, and you'll see this one no longer moves, but this one moves fine because it's set to simulate. So as long as your collision settings are set up to allow physics movement, then you could push things naturally. If you want things to work differently, kind of like, you know, you push a rock on like a Tomb Raider type game, or you push a box in like a Sokoban game, that's a little bit more work, but it's not that much of an issue. You would, you know, if, for example, let's grab, where's my little dude? Here's my little dude. If my little dude was walking up to this box right here, and he hits the box, when he hits the box, we're going to have the hit and the overlap event from our collision volumes. Our little colliders will have our events. And you can just grab those events. So in this case, you know, we would have hit or overlap depending on what you want. And the hit event tells you what happened, who hit, what hit, things like that. You can have, when our box is hit, for example, it can find who hit us. It can find out where we're being hit from. So you have things like the normal impulse. And then you just apply a movement. You either move it a preset amount, so for example, set the actor's position, or you give it a little bit of an impulse if it's a physics object, and you push it in that direction. More than likely, if it's something fixed, like you want to simulate pushing like a rock out of the way of a door or something, you wouldn't be using physics. You'll just use a predetermined event. So if you want them to be able to push it when they walk up to it without physics, like in a certain direction and stuff like that, you would do some math. Basically, put in a hit event on your object, have it when it hits with your player, it figures out where the player is pushing it from, and it applies an impulse. It applies a movement basically in that direction. If you want it to be a predetermined movement, for example, you could use a timeline. So, hey, my little guy is here. He walks up to this box. This box sees its hit from that direction. So, for example, it sees its hit. It could check the direction it's hit from, and then it could play a timeline to move itself to a different location. So, like, hey, I touched it. Boom, the door opens type thing. Or, I touched it. I moved that much. The player comes back over here, touches it again because he's still pushing forward. The box moves again. And you just continue doing that. And you can make the box move smoothly by doing like a lerp or an interpret too. If you're still having troubles with that, let me finish up what I'm doing today. Let me know by like the end of the stream, or if you still don't quite understand it or catch on Monday, I'll be more than happy to try to make like a basic little puzzle setup with like pushing a box on Monday. I want to do just the live stream stuff today because that's something that would take a little bit longer than I have time for today, unfortunately. So yeah, try going with something like that, BJ. And if you still have a problem, catch me on Monday, or just post something on like the YouTube channel saying, hey, I'm still having a problem. Here's where I'm stuck at, or here's exactly what I'm trying to accomplish. And we'll see about doing something Monday. Let's see, Andre, how can I check if an actor component overlaps another actor component? You have a couple things, but if you have the components, if you're doing a component hit, if you're doing just an actor hit, so like actor overlap, where's the stupid event for the actor overlap? Event actor begin overlap. It's only going to show you the overlapping actor. But if you actually check not on the actor itself, but on the actual component, so in this case our capsule component, it will return back other components that are hit, not just the actor itself. That's an easy way of doing that. The other one is you could do the overlapping component events. So let's see. So I don't know, sphere overlap might work, or you could do component. The component overlapping components is probably the better one. Which actually I just covered last week. Yeah, you have so you have this one, and then we have the overlap component, the component overlap component. So you have a couple different ones here we can go with. Let's move this one down. If you actually do the hit component or overlap component, so on component begin overlap right here, is because we're checking for overlaps is what we're doing. So let's get rid of this one. A component overlap event. So on the component itself, check the overlap event. Will return back the other component that it may have overlapped against. So you could do that as a basic check. Another one is you can actually do an overlapping component check. So you can say, hey, does this component overlap? And then you grab another component that you want to check against. In this case, I only have 2 of them inside of here, but this could be a box or something else. This is just 2 components overlapping. Well, the actor component will always have a root, and the root should always be a primitive. So for example, I could do get player character, and if you plug the player character into here, it's not going to be an issue, but it should work if we get the root component. Should have worked. Did not work. I mean, there are... we have no scene components under player... See, if I cast... See, like, if I cast this to our first-person character and convert him, and then we get the... let's see... You know... There are ways of doing it like this. Whoops, stop it. Okay, I'm just trying to select these 3. Unless your actor component doesn't have anything really part of it, but you're trying to check against a component, so there should be something you should check against. Now, I mean, are you trying to check against, like, you're trying to check against an actor component in here, like a child actor? Or what exactly are we trying to check against? I guess would be the good question here. Are you trying to check like child actor versus child actor? Because if so, then you might have an issue. But then you could just do the a general overlap. You could do something like this one right here, because this will take in if we do other things. Begin overlap should only fire on the overlap itself. The block event usually will fire beforehand, before an overlap. Or a hit, technically. Okay, so child actor against a child actor of other actor. So you have like a child actor inside of here and a child actor of something else, and you're trying to see if the 2 child actors overlap, is what you're trying to do. That's a kind of a good question. I've never thought about that. I don't use child actors. Because a child actor is technically just an actor. Well, I think we've got a good question here. I mean, you can do the sphere overlap. Might work, but you'd have to know the actual component. Okay, so yeah, because so your child actor, so you have a child actor in here, right? And we have an actor that we have set up. So in this case, it could be, I don't know, character, and you've got your template set up. They have their own... See, I don't use child actors. I'm going to admit it right now. I don't use child actors. I don't think I've ever used a child actor for anything before. I probably should. Now, Harry's bringing up what my thought process was. You check for collision on the child actor itself. So, this child actor should have its own collision setup, right? I would think. Yeah, Harry's pretty much bringing up my thought process. If it has its own thing, you'll have to basically check for collisions against other actors. And, I mean, because the child actor itself should have its own collision events, and it should check against other collision events. And then, like Harry's bringing up, set up the collision system so the child actors ignore collision with their parent. So that way they're basically only going to collide with other child actors. And then you'd easily be able to see when you have a collision between a child actor and another child actor, or an overlap event in this case, between one child actor and another child actor. Yeah. I don't have an exact answer because I don't use child actors, but I think Harry's on the right place here. If a child actor is an actor, basically, and you have the ability to change its collision settings inside of it, it has its own collision setup, then you can basically have it check for a different collision channel. You could have like child actors having their own collision channel under project settings and then collision. So child actors could have their own object channel that they're only themselves a part of. So it's easy enough to check an overlap against one child and the other, because they're only going to be colliding with themselves, for example, or overlapping. I keep saying collide, but I mean overlap. That's my first thought process. If you have a problem with this still, or you have an exact example of what you're trying to accomplish, throw an example like onto the comments after today's video, and I'll see if I can look into it and give you an idea. I don't have an exact use case for this in my head, so I think that's where I'm coming into an issue, trying to figure it out. But the question about Eldritch, if a static mesh, so let's go with this static mesh right here, has a collision, could it still trigger an overlapped event, such as the character hitting a static wall? Eldritch, I don't know that answer. Off the top of my head, I would assume a overlap event wouldn't fire because it's blocking it before an overlap event could even occur. However, it shouldn't be that hard to figure that out. We have our character here, and we should be able to set up, where did my stupid, oh, here we go. Let's go with the capsule component. We have a component hit, and then our capsule component, dang it, capsule component has a begin overlap. So we should be able to print out and check and see what happens. But my assumption is you can't overlap if you hit, because it should prevent penetration. But I have been wrong before, mainly because I only use one of them. I only ever use hit or overlap. Yeah, here we go. So if something hits this, we'll print hit. If something overlaps us, we'll overlap. Oops. I also should probably not be inside of the item to start with. There we go. Oops. Oh, crap. I broke my character somehow. Well, that's never a good thing. How did I break my character? I literally broke my first-person character somehow. Oh, wait. That's probably because of that. Nope, that's not because of that. Great. I broke the first-person character. Let's see if this gives us an error. What? Our animation blueprint is trying to set is an error from the get movement component, and it's saying there's no movement component on my first person character. Wow, okay. I gotta admit, this is kind of cool. So let's delete that. Let's spawn in a new character. There we go. Okay. So we have hit events on the floor when I hit the floor. And we have hit events against here. Yeah, see, I'm not seeing an overlap event when I hit something. I also kind of scrolled up, apparently. There we go. So yeah, to answer the question, I don't believe you're going to get an overlap event unless you forcibly overlap. We'd have to actually teleport our character into it. And technically, if we swept it, then the hit would count and it would block it anyways. Yeah. So to answer the question on that one, Eldridge, I don't think you can technically fire off both of them because the overlap should never happen because you should never penetrate due to the hit event basically firing off. Let's see. On the box, generate overlap events. Okay, let's see. I'm still only seeing hit right here. I mean, I definitely could be wrong. I'm not above saying I'm not wrong. But it's set to block all dynamic right now, which means it should block. If we set it to overlap all, it should overlap. Because it's no longer blocking. And then once we set it to block, so like we can set it to block all, for example, it should block everything. And it should never overlap. Yeah. Yeah. So that's my guess. We could always test by, I mean, technically we could throw this into a blueprint and test it out, but I have a feeling it's going to be the same result. That's, oh, why not? Let's see. Do I have a test? No. Okay. Well, let's click on this. Let's turn it into a blueprint. And we'll turn it into a blueprint. And we'll drop this into the world. This is now a blueprint. And now it's a blueprint, and we'll have it simulate physics and generate overlap events. We don't need to simulate. Yeah, why not? We'll turn it into block all, like that, and we'll grab it and tell it to generate hit and generate begin overlap. And this will be the box overlap. And this will be the box hit. So let's see what happens. What's the worst that's going to happen? It's going to break. So here's our box. And we have box hits. Did I see it? Did I see an overlap there? I have overlap from when my character lands. So that's not a problem. Was there an overlap there? Like right when we hit it? Yeah, okay. So there is a box overlap. Okay, so I guess... Okay, so the box will do an overlap. I know, Harry, you're agreeing with me on this one that it shouldn't be possible for both to fire, but it is possible according to what just happened. If we see it right there, you can see box overlap and box hit. So our player isn't calling it, but we are overlapping. Yeah, let's see what's overlapping when we call an overlap. Let's see what happens. Let's see. This is going to be what we hit. So let's just output what we hit this time. The gun doesn't have... I don't think the gun has collision, so that shouldn't be it. Let's find out. No. Oh, the VR marker. Huh! The VR marker is counting as an overlap, apparently. This right here, this little VR marker on the end of the gun is counting as an overlap. Because it's set to overlap. Okay, so yeah, okay, so yeah, that's what it is. I don't think we're counting as two different things. I think the VR marker and our collision volume are at the exact same spots, basically, is what it is. Let's set this to no collision. And we're probably not going to get our overlap this time. Yeah, we're just going to get the hit. Yeah. So the box itself is only... yeah, so we were good there. We are good. We were correct. Technically, both events were firing, but only firing once for each thing that did it. The capsule component hit our static mesh, and then that VR marker overlapped our static mesh at the same time because of, you know, us moving. They were basically at the same spot. So yeah, you should not be able to fire twice, which is what we thought. You're either going to get hit and it won't allow penetration, or you're going to overlap because you've already gone past the hit point. We just had multiple things that could apparently overlap at the same time. So now we know. Hopefully that's some sort of a help there. That was kind of interesting to know. Okay, we have got roughly 45 minutes. Let's see if we can get some sort of stuff working on our screen. So there is our widget. Our widget's still in a really crappy spot, but I'm not even going to worry about that for now. We're just going to worry about setting up our widget. So inside of our base monster, anytime our health is changed, we're going to want to change this. And that's going to be our current health and our max health, which should both be set to, whoops, current health and current mana. They're both set to rep notify, so we should be good to go there. We're also going to want to change these to -1 because we have ran into the issue before where if your value technically doesn't change, it never gets replicated. So we want to make sure that's in place. Okay, so let's go to our grab. Ooh, event graph. Wow, it's cold in my house. And we don't need this anymore, so we'll get rid of it. So basically, whenever our health is modified, and we have it modified whenever we take damage. We do have it modified. Do we take damage? Do we have... Wait, do we have not... Wait. Where's our damage event? I kind of realized we don't... Where did we put our damage event? I don't remember. Oh, it's down here? Ah, it's down here. Okay. So our server calls our damage event. I kind of forgot where we put stuff. And this changes the health. It notifies. The rep notify should be called. And then we check for the death. So we should be good. So our set with notify is good. This prints out our string. So instead of printing out our string, we will just change our values. Cool. So we're going to grab our widget, which is right here. And our widget, is our widget going to be of the appropriate class? It is not. It's going to be a stupid widget component. Are we going to have to cast every time? Or wait, no, we need to get the widget. This is the actual widget attached to the widget, and yep, and then we're gonna have to cast this to our health bar every single time, aren't we? Well, dang it, I don't like that, but for now, that's what we're gonna have to do. This will give us this, and then we'll set health. Where's my... No, update. I called it update. Update. Monster health. There we go. So this is the actual event we want to call. So let's just move this stuff like this out of the way. And this is going to be some basic math. We are going to... And this is the math I almost always fail. So let's pull out the calculator so I don't screw it up the first time. Where's my calculator? Oh, crap. My calculator's off screen. There we go. So let's say they have 25 health, and then now they have 20. That is not the order. We want to do the current health over max health. There we go. So we want to do the current health divided by max health. So max health. There we go. So that's the number we're going to want to feed into here. And then since these are integers, this is going to fail. So we're going to need to float these. Wait, yeah, we're going to have to float these or else they're going to fail. So at this point, I'm regretting setting up these things as integer values. And then divide. Yeah, because if you have an integer divided by an integer and your output's an integer, then you're kind of screwing yourself. Divide, please. Thank you. I also just saw another note that I need to. Division, whole, and remainder. What the hell is this? Division, whole, and remainder. What the heck? I've never seen that node before. I'm going to have to look into it. That looked kind of cool. Okay, there we go. So this should work if I did this properly. And of course, if I did this properly, that will be a miracle. Because we know that almost never happens. But I think my math is sound here, right? Basically, every time the health changes, when we get a replication event from our server, so whenever the value changes, all the clients will be notified. And then this version, be it the server version or the client version, will grab its health bar, and it's going to go ahead and update it. Now, this technically, I should probably remove the health bar from the server on creation, and I should have this be client only, just for optimization purposes. But for our project, I'm not going to worry about it. But that is something to keep in mind. There's no reason to actually update user interface stuff on the server, because that's just a waste of time. But I think this should work. Grab our widget, tell it to update its health value. We should be taking our current health divided by the max health, which, let me make sure I did that math right. So let's say its current health is 20, and its max health is 25. Yeah, it should pass in 0.8. We should get 80%. So that should work. So let's go ahead and grab all of this stuff right here, and we're going to do on rep current mana, and we're going to copy it into here, and then we're just going to, change some stuff. Let's see. Oops, we don't want the health bar. Yeah, oh wait. Did I call that monster health bar? Did I call that widget? I call that widget monster health bar. Monster overhead bar. Because it's not their health bar. It is the overhead. And it shouldn't be called overhead bar. We'll just call it overhead widget. Okay. I had to make it sound better because that sounded weird. Update health. Go ahead and do this. So here's the updated health. And then this should... seriously. Update mana. Okay, so this should be the mana. So we'll replace the health with current mana. And then we'll replace the max health with max mana. There we go. Boop, like that. And then now everyone's happy. That should work for the mana. We probably want to change the name. We'll do that on creation is my thought process. So do we have a begin play event? We do have a begin play event. Okay, so on the server. So let's take our name. Let's make sure our name is replicated. So that way it's updated properly on the client side. This spawns the controller. This sets the vector value for its home location. Our name itself should be set on spawn. So we should be good there. So let's make a new function. We'll call this one update monster name. Let's see, a monster name. Oh, wait, hold on. I'm curious. Okay, so here's something I don't know. Let's find out. We have a, these are on reps. So basically when they change, they're going to go ahead and update everybody. What I'm curious about is if we change our name to an on rep, like that. So now we have our on rep, and we change our HUD like we did for our other ones. So in this case, we'll grab this stuff right here, and we'll do this. This is something I'm curious about in terms of order of operations. When we do update monster name, whoop, that's in mono. Name update. Now what I'm curious about here is this code, when will it be called? Technically, this information is changed on spawn. So when we spawn it in and we give it the values, are we actually going to have a health widget that we can actually access? I'm actually curious if this is going to crash on us, or give us a failure error, or not work, or if we need like a delay, or we need something like that. Actually, we couldn't put a delay in the rep name, so it really doesn't matter. Let's find out. I'm curious. But at this point, in theory, I think we're good with our widgets. So let's actually test this. So let's go ahead and build out our project. Let's crash our server because it likes crashing. And wait for our server to build out. We'll start the server back up. If we've done everything correctly, we should have a health bar on our monsters. And when we run our attack, the health bar should actually work. If we've done things incorrectly, the server will crash when it tries to update the name. So let's find out what happens. Almost done. And done. Okay, we'll go ahead and start the server back up. move him over here. We'll go ahead and hit play. We'll log in. And we have our character. We have no health bars above our monsters. That is the... Oh, wait. Hold on. Let me rephrase that. Yeah, that's right. They're not facing the player. Okay, so we do have health bars above our monsters. Oh, and they say wolf. So that is good. So they do say wolf. So let's target and hit... attack, and it killed the monster instantly. That's probably not our desired result. Let's see. Access none, trying to read property overhead widget. On rep current health. Let's see. Receive damage, current health, receive damage. So we accessed none, trying to read property overhead widget. So our overhead widget wasn't cast properly. And that was on... Okay, so let's stop this. Let's check out. So that is going to be access none. So that is on our on-rep current health. So let's find our monster base. It's our on-rep current health. And that says access none, try and read property overhead widget. So this right here, our update monster health, came back as a... Well, we've got two suggestions here, and it looks like middles is probably the right one, and I didn't think about that. No, middles probably got the right answer here. The widget doesn't exist on the server. Huh. Yeah, on-rep calls in the server and the client, so that's not the issue. I counted on on-rep count firing in the server. That was my plan. We know this exists in the client. Do widgets not exist at all on the server? I haven't thought about this before because I've been putting everything in the HUD class, which only runs on the client, so I haven't been worried about this. But this is a physical object on here. So this is a physical... Okay, this shouldn't say health widget again. I gotta change that. This is a physical object. Does the widget itself not exist on the server? I wonder if it doesn't. No, that is my thought process that I mentioned at 1.2. Check and see if it's a locally... well, technically it wouldn't be locally controlled. It would have to just do an authority check, which shouldn't be an issue. Or would locally... Would locally controlled... Well, oh no, hold on. Because locally controlled needs a... Okay, locally controlled. What the hell does this node do? I know I've used it before, but I've always fed in the character, for example. No, yeah, everyone feel free to throw out words. This is the first time I've attempted to actually have a widget work on the server, and from the looks of it, widgets don't exist on the server at all, even if I've technically spawned them on the server. Unless I screwed something up, which I don't think I did. Well, I should rephrase that. I don't think I did, but I definitely could have. Yeah, is locally controlled takes in a pawn, which is fine. It could run on their monster base, no problem. But I thought this only worked on actually something that's controlled. You had a player controller attached to it. And this is the monster itself. I would assume this would be false, right? Yeah, so yeah, Harry and Middle are having a conversation regarding this one. And James piped up and actually just kind of teased me and then stopped talking. and Harry, I'm in the same thought process as you. This should return false because we're not controlling this wolf. However, that is under the assumption that we are both assuming this node technically only does that for what we're thinking. This node may return true if it is on a local machine, a client, not a server. This node may actually work different than we're assuming. I don't know. Oh no, let's find out. Why does this sound like Diablo? Do I have a Diablo? Oh, that is a trip. Okay, so that's from the Magicka soundtrack, and that sounds just like Diablo. And technically, everything is on a local machine also. So actually, he's kind of bringing up a good point on that one too. Because the server, this would be local to the server as well. I think we'd have to have the authority. I'm going to go ahead and try this. We're just going to go ahead and see if this pawn is locally controlled. If true, then it updates its widget. So we'll try it and see what happens. I mean, at the worst, we get the exact same error. So no harm, no foul. But it is something interesting to know. There's a lot of stuff with networking that I just don't know. Oh, and yeah, that's in the monster middle. This is all local to the monster. Okay, it looks like middle may have just missed which class this is in, but I'm curious since we've already compiled this to see what's going to happen. And I think the switch has authority is the one we're going to want. Yeah, no. If we were doing this UI inside of our player, it wouldn't be an issue because everything is run off the HUD itself, and then I can guarantee everything's locally controlled. So then I don't even worry. Whoops, got too close. Okay, same issue. So we will test this. Let's try it this other way. So we'll go back here. We'll nuke this, and then we'll do switch has authority. This should be only the remote ones that we want to fire off. We don't want the server to ever fire this off. Don't know if this is going to work, but we'll save and compile. We will save all, and we'll build out our server again. Yeah. No, the node returned true. The node worked like we expected it because technically the version of the wolf that's on the server is going to return back locally controlled when it attempts to fire off the event. So all of them fired off the event like they were supposed to, but the server version fired it off and gave us our little error, which isn't what we wanted. Okay, so done. Start up our server. Let's see what happens this time, shall we? I'm just going to leave this here. If we fire this off... no, that's not going to work. Yeah, that doesn't help. Anyways. Okay, log in. We're logged in. We'll grab a monster. We'll hit E, and it killed the monster this time. So, we didn't get an error. But somehow we've managed to turn our auto attack into killing the monster immediately. I think that's a small problem. Yes, the server is in control of all NPCs. It has to be. Or else you could do something to the NPCs remotely, which is not what we want. So what did I do here? All I did was run this, right? And it killed the monster? Did I accidentally set the monster's values wrong? Or... Oh, son of a gun. I know... Oh, shoot. I know exactly what happened. Interesting. Okay. So I know what happened here. And I don't like that it happened like this. Okay. So here is my thought process on what happened here. Here's my monster base. You'll remember when I was going through here, some of the things I changed was I changed their max health and all their values to -1. I changed those to make sure that way when they rep notify, they will actually update properly. Because if they were the current value and then we change them to the current value again, rep notify never fires. So our problem is, for some reason, our max values in here when we take damage. So we'll go to our event graph for our damage down here. These are not being set properly. Why is this not being set properly? Because basically it is dying, and it's dying because of this. Our current health is less than 0, and our current health is never being set to... Oh, ha. Okay, so does anyone see where the problem came in? This is a cute problem. I just realized what it was. Let's go back to our monster spawners. And this is good. This is all about trying to figure out stuff that we screwed up. So when we spawn in a monster, here's the values we set on the monster. Which is good. We want all those monsters, those values to be set. Now here's the values on the actual monster itself. You might notice 2 differences. Our current health and our current mana. Those are 2 values on the monster that we never set. So yeah, we should probably actually set those values on spawn to whatever our max is. That would be a little bit helpful. So let's go ahead and set those values, and that means, and those are set to rep notify, which is exactly where they're supposed to be. So yeah, so those are fine. We just never actually set them. I never set the current to the max value. You guys are 100% correct on that one. So let's see. This is all AI stuff, so I'm going to put it in front of the AI stuff. So we're going to grab our current health, and we're going to set it, and we're going to grab our current mana, and we're going to set it. Like that. And we are going to set them to the max health and the max mana. So now our actual values on the server and the clients should be correct. Our max and our current should all actually be their regular values, rather than the -1. So that's good. So that's good. We do have an issue where technically our UI is not correct, but I just realized we're going to call this, which is going to update the UI anyways. So I think we're going to be okay. So let me put this in our current mana right here, because we want to make sure that's correct. And then our rep name, we need to make sure our rep name fires off of there we go. I think we're okay. I think we're good. I think we should be good here. And this is good. This is one of those things where this is how programming works. You make stuff work, and then you change things, and then you realize the stuff you made work before was never done completely, and then you try to fix it, and then you realize that stuff randomly stops working, and it's because you fixed something somewhere else. And this is why when people wonder why games take years when they're actually complicated, it's because of games are complicated. They're fun, but they're complicated. There we go. So that one's done. Fire up our dedicated server. If we're lucky, we'll get no yellow errors this time. And if we're lucky, our mana and health on our monsters should actually be full when we look at them, which they are. There we go. So our rep notifies worked properly on the server side and the client side. Now if we click on one and attack it, we should start seeing life go down. There we go. And it should go down one more, and poof. There we go. Now you can't spawn wolves with half hit points for some gimmick fights that don't start with max hit point boss for the execute time. For something like that, why wouldn't we just spawn in special wolves? Like, for example, instead of spawning in wolves for the boss, we spawn in, feral wolves or hungry wolves or starved wolves or something like that. And we'll spawn the wolves in just simply as a different monster with less life. That's how I would think of doing that. But technically we could spawn them in as a gimmick, because there's no reason we don't control the actual stuff. Wow, I crashed the server this time without even doing anything. That's got to be a disconnect issue. Wow, okay, what in the hell? Okay, nope. I'm going to ignore the crashes. The crashes will happen off stream. We're going to fix them off stream. Not a big deal there. But we got the UI set up for the monsters, so that makes me happy. They're not all facing the characters, which is kind of super annoying. We need to fix that. That one shouldn't be too hard to do. It's going to kind of suck. Shoot. Crap. Crappity crap. Okay, so we have a small problem. Actually, let me rephrase that. We have a giant problem. Oh, crap. Well, actually, I can show you how we have a giant problem, and by doing this, we need to, crap, I need to, where's my package? Okay, seriously, I need to get rid of all these other projects. I keep clicking on Xbox every time. Package, Windows, 64-bit. That's what I'm trying to do. Let's see. Are you separating session from socket lifetime? Technically, the socket is never disconnecting. The socket, when the client disconnects, the socket disconnects. That is correct. Basically, the socket system that we're using, when we initialize that component, it creates a connection and creates a connection ID for that. And when that item disappears, so that actor gets destroyed or we disconnect, for example, then the socket gets disconnected as part of its destroy function. So the socket itself only exists while whatever it is that has the socket exists. But this is something I just realized I'm going to have an issue with. And we might have to redo the entire UI stuff, because I forgot about this. Did I? Oh, and I crashed the server because I never forgot to shut it off. Oh, and I crashed the client that time too. It's even better. Oi. This is going swimmingly? Okay. Ew. Okay. Well, no, this is actually even worse. We are... Well, we've definitely got an issue. Okay. Let's see. Can it drop the connection? As far as I know, it cannot drop the connection. I've never seen it drop the connection. Looking at the node server where the connections go through, it never drops the connection. I've never seen it have an actual issue. Crap. So you know how we were getting the crash inside of our editor? I'm actually getting that crash inside of the built client now, rather than after we try to connect it twice. Because you'll see I've connected twice here. I've connected once here properly. But I'm not going to be able to connect the second time eventually. It's going to crash. Yeah, I get the connection over here, and it crashes. Yeah, okay, cool. Well, we've managed to break something completely. That's pretty freaking cool, to be honest. The nice thing is I'll be able to double check and figure this out. Yeah. Okay, well, I'm not going to be able to test two different clients at the same time. That was what I was going to try to do. Crap. Yanking the cable should... I mean, it's not a persistent connection as far as I know. I mean, it's basically got an ID type setup. It's not a... It's not like an old 56K modem where you had data being transferred at all times, and once you've pulled the cable, it crashed. This is I'm opening a connection to you, you've got a connection to me, and we can send data back and forth as we need to. If nothing's going on in the meantime, no data is being sent. So it's not, you know, there's no issue there. Crap. So what I was trying to show, and we'll probably work on ending this here. Maybe I'll put the player UI in, because that's what made me realize about the other issue. Yeah, it's possible to disconnect. I know it might disconnect over time. I don't know. I've never tested what happens. All I know is here is the socket connection right here that you can see, and you can see it's connected. When I disconnect, it disconnects the user. So I've never had an issue, basically. Whenever it creates the connection to the socket and it disconnects it, it works fine. I have one server one user connected right now because the actual server is connected in the game mode. And then when someone else, you know, connects in, it connects. And even when it changes sessions, maps, it will disconnect, and then reconnect as needed. So even like that case right there where you just saw a hard crash, the server crashed and the client crashed, both of the connections got disconnected from socket.io. So however it's set up, it handles yanking the cord appropriately. I've had no issues with it. Oops, that's the wrong password. This is what I was trying to show. So this is our UI right now that we have in the game. And as you can see, it is a fixed direction. It's a fixed direction because inside of our actual viewport, you know, we have it facing there. Now, it's not that hard to have it change. We could just simply have it rotate to face where the player's at. However, because this is no, because on the okay, so this is what my problem, what I thought I was going to have, and I don't know if I'm going to have an issue. This client right here, actually it'll be fine, won't it? Will it? Yeah, okay. Never mind. I think I have my answer. Yep, Harry is right exactly where I'm right here. You'd have to rotate it to the locally controlled player. Thank you. That is, I realized that as I was literally in the middle of trying to think this one out. So this player right here has these 3 instances in the world with these 3 UIs in the world. No, it shouldn't be a problem. We do the rotate to look at node. We have it make sure it's looking at the locally player controller. We make sure it only fires if it's locally controlled on the mob. So basically, it's going to map up the local controller to the local character. Shouldn't be an issue. Because you have to remember get player if it stops crashing. Yeah. So actually, let's see if we can set that up right now. So, yeah, I hate to say the fact that it's got to be on a tick, but that's basically how it works. We could change it to something different than a tick, but we'll work on that later. Rotate to look, find look at rotation. Let's see. So this, so this tick should fire on everything, and then this will be locally. Oops. Is locally controlled. This should only fire off this event if this is locally controlled. I literally have no idea what's going to happen. Ticks aren't that big of a deal, despite the fact that a lot of people think they are. Everything in the engine itself fires on a tick half the time. This should not be like that. This should be a switch has authority. No, because that's still not the locally controlled one. Oh, you know what? I'm just going to put in a bunch of stuff and see what happens. I won't be able to test this because I don't have 2 clients set up right now, unfortunately. Yeah, I could do the rotation in the widget as well. So, okay, so middle, you do the rotation in the widget. How do you do the rotation in the widget? But, see, your widgets also, how are you spawning in your widgets? Are they 3D widgets in the world, or what are they doing? No, this should work. I think this will work. I don't know if it'll work. We'll find out. I'm just going to throw random stuff in here and see what happens. Sometimes I feel like just doing random stuff. Because, I mean, this stuff seems like it would work in my head. And I don't think this is right. I'm 99% sure setting the world rotation to this look at rotation will not work. But I don't care. Yeah, player index 0 is always the locally controlled player. So this should always get me my local player, is what it should do. You spawn normal ones. So you spawn like create widget is what you do. Or I mean basically, yeah. So you create local ones, and then how do you position them over the player? How do you make sure that they're correctly over the player? Yeah, let's build this out. I'm curious. Bum, bum, bum. Yeah, and the sucky part about this is until I get the server crashing issue fixed, we won't even be able to test this with more than one client running, because apparently I broke it. Links should be allowed. I think only YouTube kills the links. I don't mind links. It's just YouTube auto destroys the links, unfortunately. Okay, so that definitely didn't work. Cool. We know that didn't work. At least we know that didn't work now. So it's more likely going to be this, like was brought up. So this should only fire off on the client version of this mob. It's not the server version. And then it should simply grab its rotation for the local player only. And this still seems like it might be an issue. Let's see, BPC tool paste, in your case, let's see, so here's his image that he pasted, which of course, friggin', I can barely see in here, because this thing's evil. Let's see, set alignment in viewport. On each tick, we are going to, if it's got a valid, if something is valid, that's probably a node, okay. We're going to set the position in the view. Okay, yeah, so you're just setting the position in the viewport. So you're using fixed positioning based on a location. And you're adding probably a little bit to it. Okay, so you're manually moving your widget in world space, in screen space is what you're doing. Okay, yeah, which is a definite option as well. I kind of thought that might be something we might want to look into as well. I haven't decided. Like I said, I'm playing with stuff. That's what we're playing with. You're using regular widgets. You're probably creating them as needed, and then you're positioning those widgets to wherever they're supposed to in the world, which is cool. That's a perfectly good way of doing it, and that's definitely the way I was thinking of doing it as well. If this is not going to work for 3D widgets, I just like 3D widgets because they're super fun. Wait for this to finish. There we go. And go back to our login screen, start over server. I'm hoping we can finish with this working. I kind of want to end on a, it's always good to end on a fun note. A working note. Oh, look. Yeah, look at that. It worked. All right, look at that. That's what we wanted to see. And then we can attack that one. Oops. We can attack that one. Look at that. And then we'll get it to chase us. Oh, no. Ah. See, that worked. Then we'll attack that one. Granted, I don't have the Z normalized back to 0, which is what I kind of figured. I knew this angle would be an issue. It's kind of cool. You can see it angling at us when we jump. But I just wanted to see if it would rotate and work. We really need to get rid of Bloom. I really don't like Bloom. I think, not Bloom, auto exposure. I need to get rid of auto exposure. That annoys the heck out of me. Yeah, can we get rid of auto exposure? Thank you. I am starting to wonder if it's got something to do with the extra, some of the extra stuff I've set. There we go, cool. We don't have auto exposure anymore. I have health thingies. Let's kill our server. Let's find our character monster base. Here's our rotation. We just need to make sure our look at rotation is no longer on the Z, right? Split. Let's see. We only want to rotate it on the X and the Y. We don't want to rotate it on the Z. So if we do, wait, no, it's the pitch, right? Oh, darn it. Yeah, it's the pitch. We don't want to change the pitch, right? We still want the pitch to be 0. I guess we'll find out. Let's rebuild the server and find out. Yeah, it's one of those things where when you're dealing with rotations, you always think, oh, Z is up and down. And then no, when you're working with rotations. And you're right, I probably just want to change the yaw, just the rotation. The roundy part of the rotation. No, you're correct. I probably just want to change the yaw. That probably would have been a lot easier. So we'll see if this works. And if it works, then we'll go and change it to only do that one. Yeah, rotation. It's math. Basically, if the word math or anything relating to math is anything to do with anything I'm doing, then yeah, then that just doesn't work for me. But this is good. I'm happy. Log in. Look at that. Now we can jump up and down. They stay the same. All right, we've got some health bars. Obviously, these are really ugly health bars, but they are working. And we can see that we can click on a monster. We can attack the monster. Their life's going down. Granted, we don't have any of our range stuff in place. They die. We're correctly getting loot. So let's kill another monster to make sure. 380. This stuff should all be probably set as a dispatch system. So like, for example, the user interface listens in for like a coin change event, and it goes from there. We can probably set that up. Those are small things that should be done in terms of, hey, we're polishing up the game. Why don't we want to do that? Technically, do you want to see the widget if you're directly above it? I have no idea. This is probably not the right way to handle this. I have a feeling that the way Middle is handling it, where we actually use 2D widgets in world space, not world, screen space. If you guys have ever seen, this is what I mean. Whoop, that is not the launcher. There's the launcher. So our content examples has a really good example of this. Yeah, more than likely what we're doing is not the best way of doing this. I just wanted to get something in the game so we'd actually see stuff working. Let's see, content examples, and in here is is it the UMG example? Or is it the inner? Well, let's find it. There's a really cool example I like using. It's not this one. I don't remember which one it is. Darn it, I'm not gonna be able to find it. I bet you. It is it? Because it's the user interface example they showed before the UMG, and it's the targeting example, but I can't remember what it's called. Well, of course I can't remember what it's called, but it was really cool. Animations. It's one where there's a networking. It's really cool. There's a little health pickup. And you pick up the health thing, and it tells you the location to the... Oh, Blueprint HUD. Here we go. This is what I was looking for. I told you it had a little health pickup in it. Yeah, this one's cool. You see how it's got that right there where it says health pickup? That's the other way of doing it without UMG. So you have this in here, and like, yeah, 3D... Well, see, you don't have to necessarily worry about being occluded and stuff like that. Oh, shoot. My health thingy went away. Can I have my health thingy back? Aw. Yeah. So you could set up distance checks and scaling. Like you can see this one right here. You can see how it's going up and down because it's trying to maintain the left, the size of it. But you could set these things to be occluded based on other objects and stuff like that. But this is the other system that's in place that is a lot like what Middle is doing. And yeah, line of sight and stuff like that you'd have to check for. This stuff's all done. I want to say this is all done in the HUD. Is where I want to say this one's done. Is that where this one's at? Let's see. Yeah, here we go. Health bar and screen text. And this one shows, yeah, object locator right here. So if you have a valid object to locate, it does math. It turns into strings and puts on onto screen our little texty thingy. But there's no reason you can't do stuff in here, and based on distance you can get rid of things, and based on if it's occluded or not. For example, if you don't have line of sight to it, you can get rid of. But every game handles things differently, and it's all up to, like Harry's mentioning, it's a stylistic decision. All of those things are decisions. But this is a basic other way to handle it. And you would just do the same thing as this, where you do objective checks, and you basically put things in certain locations. So this is like grabbing the locations and do the distance, blah, 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 blah. That's why we end up with a nice little number there, where it sees like our distance. That's stuff we can work on. I always like that example, though. That's a really fun example for the HUD. But for now, I think we're good. Yes, Harry brought up a good point. The fact is, if we're above monsters, we won't be able to see their health bar. That is a very good point. There's no reason, for example, we couldn't set up in here. So our roll is not what we needed at all. But there's no reason our pitch, for example, couldn't be... I don't want to use normal, like clamped. There's no reason our pitch couldn't be clamped, for example. And there's no reason we couldn't scale these things appropriately. So there's tons of stuff like that. Okay, sorry about that. Had a phone call. But yeah, it looks like we're pretty much going to be done for the night. Done for the day. We're going to leave this as is. I'm going to try to figure out my server crashing issue, so that way we can actually test these things in multiplayer properly. But I'm happy. I didn't get a chance to get the player UI set up, but we did get a properly working enemy UI, and we did see that we can get things replicated. In theory, if we did this right, if I can get the stupid server fixed, we'll be able to see next time that two different players can be looking at the same monster and see the health go down properly, and then the health bar, the overhead UI, should be looking the same as well. So yeah, James, have a good night. I'm wrapping up anyways. Glad people could hang out. So we're going to wrap this up with this. I managed to make it actually to a 2-hour stream, which was good. You can catch me on YouTube, Beam, and Twitch. My email address and stuff like that is inside of the YouTube. If you need to have a question or an example or something you're looking for help on, you can ask during the stream. I'll try to help as I can. If it's something I can't, I'll try to give you information to find the right place, or we'll work on it on the stream when we can. Since today I wanted to get this goal done, and we did it, Monday I'll be more than happy to work on smaller projects if people have them in the meantime. So for the people today who did have smaller projects they wanted some help on, if you give me more specific information on what you're trying to accomplish, like the person who wanted to push a rock out of a way, kind of like Tomb Raider and stuff like that, if you're still stuck, just put a comment on YouTube and I'll see if we can work on something on Monday. If not, we'll be open for stuff. The next stream will be on Monday, approximately 2 hours before now, around 10 o'clock a.m. Pacific. I hope to heck I can get this server stuff figured out before then. It's just going to be a lot of stupid print string debugging, so I can figure out exactly where it's crashing. And we'll be good. So I'll see everyone Monday. Everyone have a good rest of their weekend. The stream will basically mute for about 30 seconds or so before it disappears.